Well, hello, welcome back to Tweet Trends. I haven't had a guest on in a long time, so I'm really excited. You all know you've been with me on my journey. October is Pregnancy and Infant Loss Awareness Month, and it is very near and dear to my heart. And we always try to highlight someone or something in this month, whether it be the wave of light or an organization is doing great things out there for families that have experienced loss. And today is no exception. We have Tieree Reid. She's the founder of Shades of Becoming a Mom, and she is our guest today. So I'm going to go ahead and bring her on. Hey, Tieree, how are you?
Hey, Beth, how are you? I'm doing great.
I am so great, and I am excited to have this conversation with you. So first, just tell us a little bit about yourself and your organization.
Yes, so Shades of Becoming a Mom is a 501c3 nonprofit that's based in Indiana. We were formed in 2021. This, like many nonprofits, as the founder of this organization, I have a connection to our mission. We are a Black maternal health and infant loss support organization. We support all women, but we focus primarily on African American women. And the way the organization came about, if I can share that with you, is that in 2007, I had a loss. I had an ectopic pregnancy that exploded, and the experience was very traumatic. I almost died as a result of that experience. And I'm gonna fast forward a little bit through that and maybe come back to it. And so after that experience had happened to me, I went through it by myself, and I pushed down everything that was related to it, got myself well, and went back to work, and just kept moving through life, and and I wasn't well. I was functioning, but I wasn't well. And so over the time, over years, there were a lot of decisions that I was making about myself as a woman, as a potential partner, that was rooted in that experience that I refused to deal with, if you will. And so I am a person, I have a bucket list that I keep. I do like to challenge myself all the time. And so, but this was just not one of them. And so I was really afraid of dying in pregnancy. And this just was not one of them. And so I got married in 2014, and before we got married, I was very clear: we're not having children. I'm not interested. I'm old. I was in my late 30s, mid late 30s. I was like, that's it. We're not doing this. And so we got married, and then my husband really wanted kids. He said he was on board with it, but he really wasn't on board with it. And just seeing him and how he felt about children really started to soften my heart. And so. We have to practice what we preach, and I am actually a minister. And so I was like, God can do all things. He can do anything, but are you not giving him this one thing? And so I said to myself, okay, I'm going to start to deal with this that's going on in the inside of me, because I know it's there. I know it's there. It's like, it's not deep in a closet. It's like literally right there. And so I've had experience working in a counseling office. Half of my master's degree is counseling. And so I was like, okay, I get a counselor to help me with the psychological piece of it, of the fear of dying, and then what may come of me going through these emotions. I'm going to hire a doula. Even before, this is before we start to try to conceive. I'm going to hire a doula to work with, and so that they can understand my story and what may come up. And I'm like, I was like, check it off the list. And I'm going to pause and say this: not every woman or every person has a support system that's built in. They don't necessarily, it may be they may live out of town, or they may not have that connection to mom and whoever, dad, or whoever the case may be. And so sometimes you have to buy your support system. Sometimes you have to put yourself in a financial situation so you can hire a doula, and you can hire a counselor and whoever else you need to be your support system so that you may go through it. And so in the process of preparing myself to get pregnant, I also decided to compete in a pageant. And in the pageant, you have to pick a platform. And since I'm a person that likes to challenge myself, I decided to choose pregnancy and infant loss. Um, and I had no clue what that would do, because I had my child, I had my rainbow baby. And I did experience grief. I did experience, I had post-traumatic stress that I was dealing with, as well as postpartum depression and a whole bunch of other things that I was dealing with after I had my child. And so you think, because grief is not straight and narrow, it's not linear, it's all over the place, it's chaotic. And excuse me, and I'm thinking that I'm good. No. Once I chose that as my platform, that meant I had to tell somebody. And for the first time, I lit my first candle with Wave of Light, and I did the T to Remember. And it was the first time that I gave myself permission, because what I didn't have was a live baby.
Mm-hmm.
I had already named her, even though I didn't know what the gender was. And so when I did that, that made the situation just so real.
Mm-hmm.
And so as I began to talk about that platform, more women started coming up to me and saying, I had a loss. I started doing sessions, and people would say, oh my God, excuse me, there's this deep-seated trauma that I had. I had a stillborn baby, and I just put it away in a closet, and I didn't realize that this was messing with me in my marriage. And so as I began to hear more and more women, more and more African-American women telling me, and women of all races, because I was out in the community, very, very visible. I had done like 50 appearances, several different vendor fairs, and women would over and over and over again say, I didn't know this existed. I went through it by myself. If I had a loss at home, I felt shamed to not tell anybody. If I had a child out of wedlock, I don't feel like I can go to the church to talk to anybody about it, and just keep hearing it over and over and over again. Then on October 15th, which is Pregnancy Infant Laws Day of Remembrance, I get a phone call from someone. This is 2021. I get a phone call from someone. Their relative had a stillborn baby, and they wanted to know what to do. And that's, funeral arrangements, all of those details. And so because I had this experience of going through this platform, I was able to, it took me a little while, 10 minutes or so, to text her a whole bunch of things. And then I was researching, because it wasn't in state, the laws within that state that surround her loss. And whether or not if she could, have the remains or whatever case may be. It's okay. And so I know, Mom. And so when I got finished with that call, I said to myself, I don't ever want to be in a position where I don't have literature and things ready for someone that needed. And I stood up that night, call some people aboard and say, hey, we've talked about this for almost a year now. Let's do it. And so that's how Shades of Becoming a Mom was birthed, because we just could not be in a position where we weren't ready to help someone. And so that's how we came about. And so I would turn it back over to you.
That is an amazing story, first and foremost. And you said something that struck a chord with me when you mentioned that you secured a doula before you even got pregnant. And you are so right when you say that everybody doesn't always have the support. Me being a military spouse, I didn't have the support when I first got married. I ended up getting sent back to the States because we were in Japan at the time when we found out that our son was had a birth defect, and that was still in utero. I was at 18 weeks. But they were able to send us back. But even with my rainbow baby, my husband it was time to change duty stations, and I was already pregnant, and I refused to leave. I was like, I'm not leaving Florida to go to Virginia to have to get a new doctor and explain to everybody everything that I've been through. And it would have been awesome to have a doula. Like, I really think the military should bring in doulas, because you have people that move from state to country to wherever, and they don't have that support. And if ever there was a time in a woman's life when they need support, is when you are
Absolutely.
pregnant, because
Absolutely.
it's not always going to be textbook, you
No,
know?
it's not. And for me, I went through every class I could possibly go through so I could understand my body. And
Hmm.
in doing that, it helped me to, okay, so I am an assertive person. However, not always. I'm also a people pleaser. I'm getting better at that, but I'm saying no. But it helped me to find my voice. And it also, of course, I had a loss, but it also demystified this idea that you just have to have this beautiful birthing experience. And and just because you're telling someone, no, I don't want an epidural, or no, I don't, that doesn't necessarily take away from your experience, because you are advocating for yourself, right? It doesn't
Hmm.
necessarily have to take away from your experience. But yes, I highly recommend considering a doula. I highly recommend it. Yep, very much so.
Definitely. You said that and it was like amazing. Yes, that's something that they need to look into.
Absolutely.
And then, how all the pieces of the puzzle came together for you. You were the perfect person at that time. And in our little conversation before we started recording, I was telling you that I've always been afraid of, where is this experience going to then show up again, where someone is going to lean on me because they know. And then in hearing your story, it was like somebody ended up leaning on you because they knew your story. And it's like, oh my
Yes,
gosh.
absolutely. And even in our stories, we have different loss experiences.
Hmm.
And I it was one day I was working with a funeral home, trying to work with a funeral home to uh, uh, decrease some of the expenses for parents who will bury a baby, a small baby. They'll make caskets like that on a
Hmm.
on a regular. So therefore, supply and demand, the cost is higher, just all of that stuff. I'm sitting here, and I'm not a lost mom in this moment. I'm an advocate in this moment. And I'm thinking to myself, and this is a person on the other side of the table who is all for us and everything else. But I'm sitting on the other side of the table and I'm thinking, okay, if I had just lost my child, I could be so taken advantage of. They could charge me any enormous rate or whatever the case may be. Just I was so a little taken back and frustrated. Um, um, about that process, and it was like it just hit me hard, because like again, I've not been through that, and then walking a mile or half of an inch in someone else's shoe of what that looked like. And so the experiences, nobody's experience is the same at
Hmm.
all. Nobody's experience is the same. But to know how frequently this happens, so in that time of educating myself as as Mrs. Central Indiana 2021, educating myself, learning that in my state, we are ranked third in the nation for maternal mortality, and one of the highest for infant mortality. Although the numbers overall, I will say, the numbers overall, as I see in the data, are going down for infant mortality. There's still a lot to be had for Black babies specifically, because Black babies have the highest infant mortality rate. And so learning all of that, all of those statistics, and realizing that I could pretty much almost talk to anybody, and they know somebody, or they have had a loss. That was just very devastating to
Hmm.
me. And then knowing that at the time of my loss, so what I didn't share was, um, at the time of my loss, I was postmaster's degree,
Hmm.
working at a university, and I was very well known in the community, frequently on the front page of the newspaper, or top of the fold, and all of that other great stuff. And I was actually working in multicultural affairs, very much so peace, love, and harmony, and kumbaya, and everybody's all great, and I'm entering in this space. I'm middle class, and all of this other stuff. And so my experience, I had an unpreventable loss,
Hmm.
an ectopic pregnancy. However, at the time, my first pregnancy, I thought that I was pregnant in my tubes because of what I was feeling. I shared that with my doctor, who is amazing. She's a white lady who is amazing. And she did the test that she needed to do, check the hormone levels to see where the baby would be at. And she said, everything looks great. So, that's not possible. I asked for an ultrasound because I was convinced that the child was not where the baby was not where the baby needed to be at. But it was like, no, you're not far along enough in order to have an ultrasound. We don't really recommend that at this time, so we really shouldn't do it. And then what we talked about earlier about some of the things you shared about you wish you had done something differently. And I'm like,
Mhm.
now we make the best decisions in the time that we have. Well, it was my birthday, and I decided to go and get a massage, a hot stone massage. And then the next day or so afterwards, that's when my fallopian tube exploded. Right. And my niece is there, and she and I'm already ready. I'm so bags already packed. All right, because I'm a planner. I already have all the contacts, insurance information clipped to a thing. I'm already ready months in advance.
Oh
Okay,
my
so I've
goodness.
already planned this. I already seen this child walk,
Mhm.
get married, graduate from college, what they were going to be. All of this had already been had in this less than 2 months that we've had with each other, right? And so the paramedics, they come and they come get me. I'm on hands and knees because that's how and I have a high tolerance to pain. So I was
Mhm.
in excruciating pain and I couldn't get off my hands and knees. They helped me get up. And I said to them, I've lost a baby. No, you haven't lost a baby. No, you're just fine. And I'm in the back of the ambulance and they're just laughing and they're talking to each other and they're communicating. They're just going on with their day as if I'm not having this experience.
Mhm.
And that's unprofessional for number one. And I
Mhm.
also take that to be because, you see a young person, I look even younger. I was in my 20s, I look like I was a teenager. And so then I come in and my niece is there and I'm giving the nurses and all those that are bringing me in the information. I'm explaining to them that I've had a miscarriage. Something just exploded in me. I don't know what it is. And they have me sitting there for what is like hours. I call my primary physician and I call the after hours line and I say to them, she calls me back and I said, if you don't send in someone for me, I'm going to die. They're refusing my insurance.
Oh
They are
my.
not serving me. I've been here too long and I know I'm dying right now. And so she called in a specialist. At some point in time, they sent me in to go to ultrasound tech. The tech was, doing the ultrasound to see what's going on in my stomach. And she just talking to me, hi, and which is the baby name gonna be, all of this, fun stuff. And I'm looking at her like, there's no baby. And I'm trying to uh, communicate with her where in her space where she's at, and I'm feeling something totally different. And then she sees all this pool of blood in my stomach, and then you can see total whiteness go over her face. And she's like, and she wasn't being insensitive. She was sweet. She was sweet. She was also a white lady. The people who were in ambulance was also white. Was very sweet. Now those nurses something else. And so then they bring me in. The doctor comes in, operates on me. Um, Wake up in the morning. So for ectopic pregnancy, a laparoscopic surgery, it's really outpatient. So you should be able to get up, walk around, and go about your business as if you did not just lose a child. And so the nurses, they come in, they're mean as all get out. They're mean. And I'm telling them that I can't get up. I can't walk. I can't use the bathroom. I can't do anything. I cannot. I'm so weak. And so the doctor, who's not a doctor who had hospital privileges, that my primary physician, again, is amazing, called in. He said, I just decided to come in since you were pretty much out sleeping and you didn't get to see me. Okay. So the doctor comes in and I share with the doctor everything that I shared with the nurse. He came in because he wanted to come and see me because I was under anesthesia and didn't get to meet him when he had done the surgery. So that next day he wanted to meet with me. And it was actually like mid-morning or something like that. And so I shared with him everything I shared with the nurse about how I was feeling. So he had them to do some labs on me to see, what was going on. And he came back into the room. He ordered an emergency blood transfusion. They had to transfuse in both arms because he couldn't believe I wasn't dead.
Oh.
When he had operated, because he had came hours, like several hours, more than several hours from the time that he was called to come in. He had operated on with the intake paperwork and the all of the vitals and stuff that they had when I first came in. Nothing was updated before he had came in to do the surgery, because he came in to the room when everything was, had started and stuff. And
Mhm.
so he looked at me and he actually said, "You should have died," because he was shocked himself. He was shocked himself. That whole experience, that is the reason why I was afraid of dying in pregnancy, in birth. And I never wanted to put myself in a position where people had that much power over me and was not looking out for my well-being. There were so many levels of things that I had experienced. And then sometimes knowledge is not always the greatest thing, because I could process through, okay, so this is ageism. This is because I'm a new mom. This is blatant racism. This is just bad customer service. I can go through all of this stuff. And then
Mhm.
the shame of feeling, because like I said, of not being married and everything else and making those bad decisions, all of that stuff just weighed up on me. And coming to a space where you have pushed it down for so many years and finally making a decision that I am going to deal with this in some type of way. And it just, even to this day today, I can still have a wave in some type of way. I've celebrated my child. We've done the celebration. We've named our child. So I've talked to my child about, that you would have had a sister. I've normalized the conversation for myself, and still, I have moments. I have moments when I go to walks and I'm the only Black person out there. I have moments of, different types of moments. I'm serious. I have different types of moments. To this day. And so when I tell my story, I always try to make it very clear that my loss would have happened no matter what. It would have
Mhm.
happened because of what was going on with my body. But how I was treated along the way is a problem. And that treatment for some people who could have had a preventable loss happens because of the isms, whatever the isms may be. And I would say that women, regardless of race, experience the ism, but Black women experience it on a different level. And so, um, as you know, as a lost mom, this month is so important, and then the conversation has to happen, not just in this month, because this is not the only day or month that individuals are finding themselves in this particular situation. And and you know oh uh and I was an educated African American woman who had these experiences.
Mhm.
And in that moment, without my suit on, and whatever else may have been, I was just another whatever it may have been in that moment. And it didn't matter. And so my education, my whatever it may be, my heart, my love for others, none of that stuff stopped them from mistreating me.
Mhm.
And so whether you want, I call it implicit bias, unconscious bias, systematic racism, just straight play ugly. At the end of the day, if you're not treating people well, you are possibly putting their lives in jeopardy in ways that go beyond just the loss. Years of grief, years of whatever the case may be that the person has to process through. Me not,
Mhm.
I love doctors. You know what I mean? I had at that time, I had sat in so many hospital rooms with my brothers and their girlfriends or wives or the case may be. I've been an unofficial doula, 10 births, whatever it may be by that time. And so, it was such a humbling, if you will, in the sickening way experience, to know that you could achieve so much and still it doesn't matter. And so, with that being said, there is statistics that even no matter what the socioeconomic status is for African
Mhm.
American women, the rate is extremely high. Babies that are born to Black babies that are born to Black mothers, they are dying. The moms are dying at a higher rate. The babies are dying at a higher rate. And so, obviously something needs to be done about that. But this particular National Black Baby Loss Awareness Week is this week, October 17th through the 23rd. This week is really about raising awareness that, first of all, infant loss happens, preventable and unpreventable. It happens. And it is a conversation that should be talked about if you want to talk about it. Also, as women, men, we grieve in certain ways and we've been through some things. There's an opportunity to even celebrate the fact that you went through something and that you made it through something. Have you celebrated the fact that you were strong and you are yet standing? And so today we're wearing blue. We are wearing blue to support, to honor, to celebrate those who have made it through that loss and they're still here with us. Because the maternal mortality rate, maternal suicide rate is something that is starting to get more traction and data around that. So if you look at that data as well, that is high as well, maternal suicide. And suicide after coming out of 2020, we just seen it, the individuals who might have been the pillar of strength, dying by suicide. I want to say the other way, dying by suicide. And so we want to say, we're so glad you're here today and we are wearing blue. And if you are still trying to make it through the days and you're having a hard time because somebody told you need to keep shut, to keep the peace, or whatever the case may be, we want to identify ourselves as an ally in this fight with you. And so this week is about love. It's about balancing between sharing these massive statistics, which is, Black infants die 2 times the infant mortality rate of non-Hispanic Blacks. And in 2020, Black infants died nearly 3 times the sudden infant syndrome mortality rate as non-Hispanic whites. And Black infants are 4 times more likely to die from complications related to low birth weight than non-Hispanic whites. These are all true. These happen. There are also success stories. There are also states that are out there that are doing tremendous work to prevent preventable deaths. There are nonprofit and loss organizations that need a lot of support to continue to support individuals like yourself that lost mom that are grieving, or maybe you're not grieving. Maybe I've had this conversation with someone. Maybe you were okay with your loss at some point in time. You were okay with it. You come to terms to it, but then life changed. You get married. You're concerned, am I infertile? And so now you're dealing with another level of grief that you didn't realize that was associated with that loss. And so there is a need for a space for all of that. And there's also a need for a space to support these organizations so that those resources can continue to exist. And so we're pushing Give Black. And that means to give to organizations that are supporting African-American families and trying to drive down these numbers in infant mortality specifically, but also in maternal mortality as well, and in the mental health realm of maternal health. And so that's one of those things. And then on October 23rd, we have Black Candle Day. This is not to take away from anything else that is happening in the pregnancy and infant loss awareness. So on October 15th, I did light a candle. And then on October 23rd, I will light a candle as an advocate, because African-American babies are 2 times more likely to die. And so Black Candle Day is an opportunity to create a specific space for African-American community to show their experiences and to honor their babies, to find positive solutions for their grief. It is an opportunity. If you are someone who support, you can also light a candle. You may or may not know someone, but you may say, again, I'm a woman of faith. You may say, God, or whoever you serve, put me in a position so that I can be available to support somebody who doesn't look like me, that is sitting in this situation. So I'm going to light this candle. I'm going to take a picture, put it online so that somebody can see it and I can be a hope for somebody. And so this week, it is an awareness campaign that I truly hope that individuals find peace, find connection in some type of way, and also find the resources so they can get the support that they need. Yeah.
You said a word that just you said it all. You said it all. Because like you were shining the light on the fact that yes, it's happening to everyone. However, we do need to look at the numbers and see that it's our babies and our communities and our mothers and fathers that have a completely different situation, a completely different experience. You mentioned yours, and I had something similar happen where um, with this pregnancy with my son, he's over on the side. Um,
He's right there.
um, I started bleeding, and so we went to the emergency room, and one of the people in the room, I don't know if it was a doctor or a what, um, it was a woman, and she was like, "Well, what did you wait so long to have a baby for anyway?"
Oh, wow.
And I'm sitting here thinking to myself, like, first off, you don't know me, and I don't know you. But, is it the fact that I'm a Black female and I'm older? So, kind of like what you said, I went down the whole checklist. Like, so I'm older, having a baby now. So you're shaming me for my age and being pregnant. But maybe I wanted to do it the right way and I didn't have the husband at the time. And so now that I have a husband, I'm having the baby. But I guess in with my skin, I wasn't supposed to do that. I don't know.
Yeah.
And so that's a whole nother episode. I might have to pull some mamas and be like, tell us your story that you had
Yes.
with the hospital, with the nurses, with all the people in charge. Because like you say, because we can't give birth ourselves and do it all on our own, we have to put our lives in somebody else's hands.
Yes.
And that's a scary thing.
It is. It really is. It is a very scary thing, especially if you um have had other traumatic experiences, and then you are a the only person that look like you in that
Right.
particular space, and you don't know um um how to feel or how to trust, or what, or whatever the case may be. But I really want to encourage people to know that there are healthy pregnancies, there are
There
healthy
are.
births, and there are definitely ways to ensure your peace in some ways, by making sure you have that circle of people around you, making sure you have that education about your body and what your experience, what your birth plan is going to look like.
Mhm.
And then and just, again, I'm a woman of faith, and I believe that the God that I serve can do all things. And me preparing for a possibility of something going wrong doesn't mean that I believe that something is going to go wrong. And so it is okay to consider, what that may look like, or even if you have a successful a birth, what that postpartum experience, might look like. And so
Mhm.
all of this has to be talked about. Get the right questions to go in and talk to your doctors, and be okay with asking the same questions, because now today you don't get your doctor that's going to possibly deliver your baby. You have a group of people that you have to be rotated through, that you meet with. And so have your questions and ask everybody these different questions to
Mhm.
see where they are, to understand where they are, to know them, that they say know them that labor among you, to know that if you get this doctor, he don't listen, he didn't do the follow-up on your high blood pressure, whatever the case may be. What so when you come in, you can have your game plan and stuff. And so, and then having a doula there to either help advocate for you, help create a calming space. Listen, I have allergies, but let me tell you, I had the frankincense going. It didn't matter. I had the birth ball. I had everything trying to work in my favor. And
Oh.
still, I still had a traumatic birth experience. That's another. So I still had a traumatic birth experience, and I was 40
Mhm.
when I'm pregnant with my daughter. And I had an opposite experience. I had a doctor that told me, it's not too late. You can find, and then we did all the tests. You're just fine. Go get pregnant. You don't have to lose weight. Go get pregnant. And so, and I love telling my stories, because everybody in my story on the outside of are all white.
Mhm.
The doctor that I love, that did the right thing as far as her medical decision to check for the ectopic pregnancy. And I didn't advocate enough for myself. She was amazing. She's white. The people who were treating me poorly, they were white too. The person who saved my life, he was white too. And you know what I mean? And so the doctor who told me, gave me hope, was white. The person, you know, who did turning the baby, I had a breech baby, you know, all of this. Well, we're gonna mix of white and black. So I say that to say that I want people to know that in hospital institution or in an institution, when we're talking about racism and we're talking about systematic racism, it does not require a color
Mm-mm.
for it to happen. It is so ingrained in the culture of that environment that anybody well-meaning can put forth that type of behavior, if you will. And
Mm-hmm.
so just want to make sure we're very clear that I'm not talking about all white folks.
Mm-mm.
That's not me. That's not my thing. I don't like to be put into a category either. And so I'm thankful to be having this conversation. I didn't know this is what my life was going to. I'm by trade, I'm an educator. I had
Mm-hmm.
no clue that this is where my life would be going. And sometimes I fight it, but I had no clue. I had absolutely no clue about it. And so we overcome by the power of our testimony. That's what I want to say. We overcome by the power of our testimony. Speak your truth, own your truth. Whatever that truth may be for you, own it. Share and share and share and share, because you will find healing in your story. Someone will find healing in your story. There will be comfort there. And so that's my hope for people, that they can find healing, healing all across the board, healing for those who have lost, healing for those who are serving, that they don't get compassion, fatigue, and that they can continue to run this journey and this fight. And all of us who are, you know, these organizations, I'm just things are coming in my head as I work with organizations that have all of this money to serve, and they say, we don't have not one African American person enrolled in our program. I'm like, oh my God. And so there is just a need for awareness of state resources that are available, that are not being utilized for African American individuals, as well as other communities,
Mm-hmm.
international populations that are not utilizing those resources. So we're going to get back on another soapbox. But
Oh, no, no, that was perfect because that tied it all in because you gave the advice for the families. And so they're going to have to rewind and listen again and take notes because you gave them all tea, like, okay, this is what you need to do. You need, because that the thing about the doctors, I didn't know that initially until I got closer to my due date. Because with our son, that was an emergency C-section. That was at 30 weeks that I had him. But with our daughter, I went pretty close to full term. But as I got closer, my doctor was saying, okay, here's what you do. Should you feel like it's time to go, make sure you tell them that one, at your last appointment, your child was breached, so they're gonna need to see you a little bit sooner than what they would, because she's like, if you don't, they're gonna tell you to stay home, sit home, wait till your contractions or this. And she was like,
Yep.
I don't want you to wait. And on top of that, she also said, if I'm not on duty that day, you may have to deliver with Dr. X, Y, and Z. And I was like,
Absolutely.
oh, whoa, whoa, wait a minute. See, I have a relationship with you.
That's right.
We have an
That's right.
understanding. We've been through this. You know my story. Who are these men that you're telling me about? And
Yep.
so, and even she even had the conversation with me about, okay, so after you have the baby, because I had the C-section and she was breech, she was like, we're just going ahead in our mind thinking that you will have a C-section.
Yep.
So let's plan what that looks like. She's like, you can try to push if she turns and whatnot, you can do that. But if she doesn't, then, plan for that. But then she even went as far as to tell me like her style of closing you back up, stitches and glue versus staples. And I
Mhm.
had no idea.
Yeah.
No idea. And she even told me, she was like, now this doctor, he prefers this one, he prefers this one. And and they all the men all preferred the staples, and I don't know if that's the quick easy route or what, but I was like, so I had the stitches and the glue last time, and I like your style, so I'm
Yes.
gonna need you to make sure that when I make that call, you are going to be here at the hospital. And thank God she was
Yes.
there, because
Yes.
I don't know what I would have done with these other men because of the trauma that I'd had with my previous, and because I had even said to the nurses, I said, I wish there was a sign or a sticker or something that you could put on the door to say that this mother in this room has been through something before. So you might need to come in with some kid gloves with me and be a little bit, you got to be a little gentle with me, because I cried like a baby when they were ready to send me home, because
Yes.
I'd never left the hospital with a baby before. And
Yes.
so the nurse didn't understand, and my husband had to break it down to her. And even talking about it now makes me want to cry. But
Yes.
it was a thing for me because I'd never done that before. And on top
Absolutely.
of our child that we lost, I'd had 4 miscarriages.
Hmm.
So this was big news for me,
Yep.
like, oh gosh, you're about to send me home, baby. Like,
Absolutely. And I felt something similar too. I remember sitting, I kept the chair that I purchased for, so I had miscarriages in between that I just was detached from, and I still don't have any no connection there. But I sat in the chair that I purchased for my first child, and I remember sitting there saying, God, the one that you allow to live and the one that you did not. And I just was feeling all kind of emotions. Like it's just, yeah, there's so pregnancy after a loss. That's a whole thing within itself. I do want to say one thing, and skipping. Um, um, Hospitals have lots of many hospitals have a lot of resources. So if you are near a hospital, please, please, please connect with that hospital. You don't necessarily, if you are giving birth at one hospital and there is another hospital have resources, you can go to the hospital. If you are in a rural area and you have no access to resources, there are people who have to drive 40, 60 minutes, whatever the case may be. There are online resources at www.sbmom.org, as well as Black Baby Loss Awareness Week. There is a resource list for preventative, for loss, a whole bunch of different resources. There's several organizations that are out there that have existed years and years before us, and we list all of them, that are very well skilled and adapt and supporting individuals that have lost, that are trying to conceive after a loss, or that have never had a loss, but they are concerned about that. So I advise you to go to those pages, look at that information. The Birth Partner is a book that my doula gave to me to read, and I didn't read it. It is very, very, and I have handed out to other people. And so I would highly advise to get that book. And there are other books that are there, but the more information you know, and then you have to know yourself, because some people, too much information will overload them and create anxiety. But for me, the more information that I know, it helps me. So when it happens in time, I'm not getting a shock to myself and having to find my way to adjust. So like when you were saying, oh, I have to meet with somebody else, it's possible that you're not going to be there. That can create a level of anxiety that you definitely don't want to take into the room with you. But if you know that, and maybe it's set up where you are going to see the same doctor. That's where you ask. I want to visit with everybody in case if that person's going to be on my service. And so, I just, all just connect to as many resources as you possibly can. It is just so easy to think that as a young woman, 18, 19, 20, 21, I'm going to get married, we're going to have a baby, the whole little song, the baby with baby carriage, and not think that it's possible that you may not get the carriage, or the carriage might be empty, or, though that's a possibility. And so what does that look like for you? And then families, once again, be kind, be loving. Thanksgiving table is rough for those that are single, is rough for those who have lost. It is extremely rough. And those questions, when you're going to have a child, when you're going to have another child, you should get over it. You should be glad. All those things, I encourage you to not say them. not to not say them, because you create a wedge between you, and you are a resource and you are a source of strength for them, can be a source of strength for them, and you may create a wedge between you and them, and you may not even understand it. And so there are many sites that are out there that can walk you through. You can go to our website that can walk you through what not to say. And there are several infant loss directories, and it's national, because you can find something in your state. And if there are resources that you know about, share with me, share with the other organizations, and we will add those resources if we can to our website.
Awesome, awesome. Speaking of your website, can you share with everybody how they can get in contact with Shades of Becoming a Mom, or
Yes.
maybe National Black Baby Loss Awareness?
Yes. So Shades of Becoming a Mom, if you wish to get in contact with us, we are both on Instagram and Facebook at Shades of Becoming a Mom. And then our website is www.sbmom.org. So SBMOM.org. National Black Baby Loss Awareness Week is blackbabylossawarenessweek.org. And then we're only on Facebook, and you would type out our name to find us. And you can follow us on Facebook and on those different events that are happening for this particular week.
Awesome,
Thank you.
awesome. And so remember, that's October 17th through 23rd. And Tyree, this has been an amazing conversation. I could talk to you all day.
I could talk to you all day as well.
We got to get stuff done today. So definitely, if you don't mind, I would love to have you back on the show. This
Yes.
has been wonderful. It's been a blessing to me, and so I can only say that I believe that it's going to be a blessing to the people that are listening. And you've given so many resources and so many ways to find other resources and tips and tidbits and everything. I know that between the families that maybe are trying to conceive or have conceived already, this episode was not meant to scare anyone, but it's the conversations that are necessary, because there's always that possibility that if something does go wrong, you don't want to have to deal with this on your own. And we're here for you. Groups like Tyree's, they're out there, and we just need you to be aware. So thank you so much for joining
Thank
us.
you.
And I look forward to having you back on the show.
Yes, absolutely. I look forward to working with you.